Well, first, this picture that you can see came from the Transportation Concurrency Best Practices Guide, and this document was done by Center for Urban Transportation Research for the agency then called Department of Community Affairs. Okay, and this agency is now the Community Development, which is a section of the Department of Economic Opportunity. So this guidebook is now out of print, but you can, if you want to have access to this document, download it, you can go to this page and have access to this document. And for those of you that were not in attendance last month, simply concurrency is the practice of establishing a certain level of service and trying to make sure our facilities are operating at an acceptable level of service. So when a development comes in and has an impact on that transportation system, due to mitigation, we need to improve the impact and bring the operation back to the acceptable level of service. So that's what concurrency means. So in order to understand the more difficult concept of a percentage of the maximum service volume, we need to understand a little bit of information about maximum service volumes as described in the Florida Level of Service Handbook and tables. Let's say, for instance, that a certain community has adopted a level of service standard of D for its roadways. Okay, and let's say that the community has determined that any new development that adds 5% or more above that acceptable level of service, that's an impact and should be studied. So let's look at this example. This is Deerwood Avenue. It's a 4-lane divided arterial. It's in urbanized area, class 2, and it's we are looking at it as peak hour. At the peak hour, how many vehicles this roadway or this development produces. And as I said, let's say this local government has accepted level of service D for its roadways. We'll look at level of service D, which is the maximum service volume for level of service D is 1,630. Okay. Before I go any further, let me show you where we got the level 1,630 from. So we looked at the urbanized area. As I said, Deerwood is an urbanized area, and then I said it's class 2. Class 2 is based on, as you can see, posted a speed of 35 miles per hour or slower. So Deerwood is an urbanized class 2 arterial, and it's a 4-lane divided. But I said we're going to look at the peak hour, okay? So during the peak, I'm looking at one direction, which is 2-lane. And the local government adopted level of service D, and it is 1,630 maximum service volume for this letter grade. Okay, now let's go and do the calculation based on this service volume tables. Okay, so we said the acceptable level of service or the standard is 1,630. So this development produces 300 peak hour directional trips. So what do we do to see the impact? We divide 300 by 1,630, and that equals to 18%. So this development has 18% more than the requirement. Remember we said 5% or more, that's an impact. So this is very significant. This is way over 5%. So again, mitigation takes place, again, depending on the impact, how big the impact is. We need to bring back the transportation system back to a safe and efficient facility. So the percentage of significance for maximum service volume can have a dramatic impact on the size of the study area. So this is an example from a study of a development regional impact or DRI in Sarasota. This is what this study area looks like if they use 5% maximum level of service volume for the level of service C, for instance. Let's say government has adopted level of service C. So if the development impact goes above 5%, that's an impact. And notice when we change from 5% to 3% of the level of C, and it's going to make the area go larger. That means they reduce the threshold from 5% to 3%. But again, the local government that has set the criteria wants the developers look at a broader network and incorporate those roadways that this development may have an impact on it. As you can see, this portion right here, it's not connected. This is the south part and this is the north part. It's not connected, and you know, it's because these roadways have 4 lanes, and the southern portion of this area, it's a 2-lane, so you don't want to combine the 2-lane with the 4-lane, because this 2-lane really, if you include it in your analysis, it has adverse impact of the level of service. So you may want to analyze this separately, and this is why we wanted to use this example.